What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Comically Boston, my weekly after show for Marvel episodes and Star Wars episodes. I know that we're talking about Loki Season 2, Episode 1, Ouroboros. Shout out my boy OB, Kihei Kwan. He is amazing. He's so much fun. He's such a good actor. He's, you can tell, he's enjoying himself on set, but he's also giving a performance that's like authentic to him, but also the character he might be playing. And this episode starts off immediately where season 1 leaves off, and I love it for that. It shows us the King the Conqueror statues. It opens up right on his face. We don't see Jonathan Majors in this episode other than the statue, and we hear his voice. And after his court hearings that's still going on today, and all summer we've been like on strike, and we've been trying to hear what's going on with the case and what's not. What's Marvel going to do? Are they going to recast him? Are they going to pivot going another way? So it doesn't seem like they're going to recast after episode 1. So it seems this series is the same that they set out to make, which is kind of cool. And season 1 I really loved. It was probably my favorite Marvel show out of all of them. So this one, coming out with a season 2, I'm so excited. I think it's the first Marvel show to get a season 2, and it couldn't be a better show. Tom Hiddleston, Owen Wilson as Mobius and Loki. I love them. To see them back together, so amazing. But let's get into it. Loki's getting pulled through time. We see him. We obviously open on the statue, and then he's running away from Hunter B-15 into a Mobius that from the end, literally picks up right where they left off. So if you haven't seen the finale in a long time, like I went last night after watching season 2, I went back and watched the finale again and then watched season 2 again, and it made a lot more sense. But also you get the vibe, like the set design, the score, the music, the costume design, like everything about the TVA and everything about Loki I fucking love. It's so fun. It's incredible to see. It's like, whoa. You can't tell what's real, what's VFX, what's not a set, what is a set. I love it though. It's really compelling stuff. But poor Loki in these opening scenes, he just looks like he's in so much pain, and he's like so confused, and he's the only one that has seen He Who Remains, so now he's got to tell Mobius about it, and the other hunters and the other TVA members, and he's trying to find Sylvie, and he's like, he's the only one that heard, like, he hasn't even seen Kang the Conqueror, like, from Quantumania. He's only seen He Who Remains, and He Who Remains told him, kill me, and there will be all these other variants will come to this timeline and create chaos, and there will be a multiversal war. And I think that's what we're coming to, is a multiversal war. But Loki says to Mobius, it's me. He's like, I don't know who you are, so I couldn't tell if this is a different timeline or if this is part of the time slipping for Loki. And Loki's still living, one line, but he's jumping, like getting pulled through time and space. So, like, he's getting pulled into the past, he's getting pulled into the future, so maybe this is before, like, the Mobius and Hunter B-15 that they're talking to with the statues of Kang in the background. Maybe that's before Loki Season 1, and it's only after Loki Season 1 for Loki. You know what I mean? Like, it's confusing, but it's so intriguing and compelling. But I thought this scene was hilarious. Loki pretty much just yeets himself off of a frickin' out the window, lands on a truck. The truck crashes into the Kang statue. The Kang statue crashes. We end up seeing Casey. Casey is wearing headphones, and Casey's listening to the same podcast recording video that is about sleep and not being able to sleep, that is in Moon Knight, that Stephen Grant listens to. But I thought that was an interesting little Easter egg. The thing that Casey's listening to is the same thing that was in Moon Knight, and the directors of Moon Knight are now directing season 2, so maybe that's the directors leaving a little Easter egg to go to Moon Knight. Loki keeps getting pulled through time, so Loki gets pulled through time. Mobius gets shit talked by X5, whoever that is, talking about jet skis, which is hilarious. They got to bring the jet skis back. If we don't see Mobius on a jet ski this season, we riot. But X5 says to Mobius that he has to go to a new judge hearing after Renslayer's quit, or wherever she went at the end of Loki season 1. And Loki gets time pulled into a different room, like Kang's. It's like a room of Kang faces. And, you know, it's just so interesting how he's getting pulled into rooms, the same rooms that they're in conversations, but he's in the room that he's supposed to be in, but at a different time, you know, whether it's the future, the past. And I think he's going to be time slipping all season. And, you know, we'll talk about one of the biggest questions coming out of episode 1 is who proned Loki and who was on the phone, but we'll get to that. Loki's in that room and he's like so confused. He's like, where am I? I'm supposed to be in this room, but this room just looked different a minute ago, you know what I mean? And he hears a recording of what has to be He Who Remains, because that's what the closed captions said, but maybe He Who Remains was Kang in the first place, and then it's just, he's gotten to this point where he's at He Who Remains at the end of time, and he's, you know, timeless. He's a man without time, really, because you can, if you're in charge of the TVA, you can just drop in at any point. So, like, we also find out the TVA is at least 400 years old, because the last time that OB saw Mobius was 400 years ago. So now you're like, so Loki's jumping 400 years in the past, he's jumping to the future, he's in the present, and he's hopping around, but it's all happening, like, in the present for Loki. So it's like, we're following him, so it's so confusing, but it's also, like, followable. Like, but it's crazy how crazy it is, but yet you still kind of get it. But it's harder to explain than to, you know, watch it and kind of get it. But we hear He Who Remains talking to Renslayer, and he's like, Ravonna Renslayer, you are quite the marvel. What does that mean? Is Ravonna Renslayer the key to all this? And we hear them say, for all time, always, right? Which is the TVA's spokes thing. So this all started with Renslayer and He Who Remains, but obviously those two have a relationship in the comics. Maybe it will come to bite them in the ass, because you can see in this picture that it seems like through portals they're both trying to stab each other in the back. But, you know, I honestly really like Jonathan Majors, so I didn't mind Ravonna Renslayer in season 1 either. I thought she was a bitch, but she was being a bad guy. But, you know, maybe that's the goal. But overall, I hope we get, it has been said that we get him for 3 episodes, Victor Timely at least, so that's Jonathan Majors, still a variant of Kang, but I wonder if we'll get more variants of Kang. Maybe we'll get Kang himself, maybe we'll get He Who Remains again. I'm so curious about this show, but the pacing of this show, it started off fast and quick, and it was fun, but like really kept you on the edge of your seat, waiting like, oh my god, like what's gonna happen? Loki hears the little tape in the wall, which is conveniently left, is like maybe someone left that for him to find at a certain time. Like, so is He Who Remains still in charge, and still, this is still the story that he wants Loki to find? You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. But we go to this new judges meeting, and we see this old broad. She just is creepy looking to me. I don't know who she is. And then we also see Lysa Arryn from Game of Thrones. That's her character's name in Game of Thrones. I'm sorry to the actress, I don't know her name off the top of my head. But she and X5, this prick that was mean to Mobius, so I already don't like him, and I already don't like her. And when they did this, where they like touched heads, I definitely don't like them even more. So whatever their deal is, and they come up more at the end of the episode too, which is strange. But we'll talk about it heading into episode 2. But Loki keeps time slipping around, so he time slips back into this room. So not the Kang head room that he was in before. Now he hops into this room, and he looks at the wall, and he's like, this room looks different. And then he prunes the wall to reveal the same Kang heads that he was just looking at in the background. You also see on the table here the sliced off head that Sylvie cut off in the last season. The one that said, see you soon, and then she kills He Who Remains, and what does he say to her? See you soon, you know, like, so how soon will they see each other again? Who knows? Mobius kind of takes Loki, and he's like, listen, what is happening to you? You're like, that was disgusting. Like, and he tries to be nice about it. He doesn't say it's disgusting. He's like, no, that felt okay? Really? Well, it's just, whoa, and then he does it again, and he like comes back, and he's like, yo, that is, you know, just Mobius's face, like, as, you know, you can see in like the still frames here that his like flesh and skin and bones are just getting literally pulled from where he is, just ripping him out of time and ripping him back in. I give Tom Hiddleston a lot of credit. His heavy breathing and, you know, facial, you know, fear and pain in his face, you know, you could see it, but also Owen Wilson's reaction to it, like, just kind of, oh, you're doing it again. I really don't want to look at this anymore. It's just terrible. Just terrible. He goes, I thought you said it wasn't that bad. He goes, it's awful. Like, but you could see this still too. It's like Loki's face is literally getting ripped into a different place. Like, oh, it looks so gnarly. Mobius goes, we got to get you over to RNA, which is repairs and advancement. We go down and we meet Ki-Hu Kwan playing OB, right? And then they start talking to him, and he's like, so, hey, OB, we have a problem. And then he time slips again, and he goes, that's the problem. Wow, time slipping. You've seen that? He goes, yeah. And he goes, oh, so you can fix that? He goes, no, you can't time slip in the TVA. And he goes, well, we just saw it. And he goes, yeah, that's crazy. You know, like, it's so confusing, because it's like, if it's not supposed to be happening, then why is it happening? And why is it only happening to Loki? Why isn't everyone else time slipping if it's supposed to be shit's falling apart? But then I love how they, like, talk to you in, you know, the exposition in this show, and they're talking to each other, and they're catching Mobius up, and then Loki's time slipping, and he time slips 400 years in the past, or however many years in the past, and he talks to a younger OB before he even gets the name OB, and he's like, time slipping, and he's like, you can't do that on the TV. And he goes, I know, but I literally was just talking to you in the future with my buddy Mobius. And he goes, oh boy. So, you know, the same thing he has him build in the past, he goes, hold on to that for my buddy Mobius, he'll come back. And then in the future he goes, oh my god, I do have one set here. You know, like, it's convenient, but also like a good way to show time travel, time slipping. It's a weird way to show time travel, but I also like how they're showing it. You know what I mean? And Mobius is like, how do I not remember that? Wait, is he talking to you in the past right now? And you're just remembering it? And he's like, wow, that makes perfect sense. There's no flaw in that logic. And Mobius is like, yes. Oh my god, these guys, like, if we're gonna get a whole season of Ki-Hu Kwan, Owen Wilson, and Tom Hiddleston, I'm okay with it, man. These guys, like, in this first episode, were just so funny. I love the line from Mobius too, as they're walking up to OB. He's like, "He who remains? Why do you keep calling him that?" And he goes, "That's how I was introduced." And he goes, "That's so cliche. That's like calling yourself last man standing," you know, and, which is just funny, you know, like. I thought it was a good line. Maybe it's a dad joke, but it made me laugh. But I love how they explained the time slipping by showing it, but also like talking it and like giving a real example. And then they also talk about the likelihood of getting turned into spaghetti, and, you know, and losing all your skin. And Mobius is supposed to lose all his skin. And then later he's sitting there and he like writes in the dust, which dust is dead skin particles, which is like meta but also gross. In the dust he writes skin ? So Mobius is just thinking about it like, I'm supposed to fucking lose all of my skin? Like, that's a possibility right now? But like, then he brings up the thing, like the possible scenarios, and Loki's like getting ripped apart and put back together over and over again, or life without skin. And Mobius is like, what quality of life without skin? What quality of life are we continuing if you don't have skin? So I comment below, what do you want more? To get ripped apart and put back together again, or to live life without skin? Ugh. 1, gross. 2, ouch. But Mobius, this whole scene where like OB is explaining things, but then Loki time slips again, and, you know, Mobius is like, yep, and then they're like, but you need to go there and make sure that you have. He has this little dial, and he goes, when this turns green, you have to prune yourself, or Mobius might lose his skin. And Mobius is like, really? Why do we keep bringing this up? You know, like. So Loki's sitting there, and he's like, if I don't make it back, and then gets time slipped, and he goes, you'll make it back. He'll make it back, you know. He's like, he's got to reassure himself because he's really not sure. But Loki's got this little green dial, and it's like time, and Mobius holds out for as long as possible, but Loki hears this phone ringing. So who's calling this phone, and why is it ringing? Like, and why was it so important? Like, who's on the other end? I think it might be a Kang variant or something, or maybe a future version of Loki trying to get him to be where he's at, or something. Like, you know, he's messing with the time in the past and present, and like just the time slipping. I think the time slipping is going to have a major role in the entire season. So like, even though this episode was supposed to be them fixing it, don't like think that's the only thing that's going to happen, because I think it's not going to work, and I think he's going to be time slipping over and over again in the season. And then we see Loki get pruned, right? So Mobius is waiting, he's got to turn around, and Mobius isn't going to make it, and then we cut and Loki's getting pruned, right? So we thought he wasn't going to make it and Loki was going to be stuck or whatever, and so Loki gets pruned from the back. It's kind of much like in the last season where Loki's face to face and he's about to tell Sylvie how he feels about her, and then he gets pruned into the void. So this time he doesn't get pruned into the void, but he gets pruned, and it's the way it's shot. You can't see anybody behind him. You see his hands, so he's not doing it himself. Like, so he's getting pruned. He gets pruned by who's on the phone, and then, you know, Mobius had to walk out on this thing. Look at this, how this looks. You see the timeline on the right is weaved into a rope, and on the left it's just all these wild strands of multiverse going absolutely crazy. So Mobius has to go out there and hit a button. He hits the button, it shoots a cord, and then we see, as he looks, you see Loki gets pruned, and Mobius is like walking back. He's not going to make it, and Loki comes flying out of this thing with the little hook attached to him. You see the reflection in Mobius's helmet. He's like, oh my god. You all see the duct tape. He's like, is that cracked? OB slabs duct tape on it. You're good. You know, like, there's little lines in this that just, it's all so fast and so quick, but it's also so funny. But you see Loki hits Mobius, the door is almost shut, and they fly back in just in the nick of time. And Loki isn't mad or shocked by anything that just went on in his experience. He just turns, like, Mobius looks like he's charred and he's burning up, and he was just in space. Loki's perfectly fine, and he just goes, we have to find Sylvie. You know, and he says that because right before he got pruned, and he time slips, and he's standing there, and all of a sudden, like a horror movie, Sylvie opens up the elevator, and she's just kind of looking with her hands. She's like, there you are. So there you are. What do you mean? We haven't seen you this whole episode. Why are you popping out of an elevator? And then what I love about Marvel, and I love that they've learned their lessons at least a little bit. In this first episode, we get a post-credit scene. The post-credit scenes are some of the best parts about Marvel, teasing the future, teasing what's next, and letting us talk about it for the week while we wait for the next episode. But Loki ends with Hunter B-15 and sees the judges go through a time door with a bunch of like TVA troops, and the guy that's with Hunter B-15 goes, I don't buy it. And then that's the end of the episode. And then we get a post-credit scene. Sylvie in Brixton, Ohio. I don't think it's Ohio. I think it's Brixton, Oklahoma. And it's like 19-something. And I think it's the 90s, maybe 92. I'm going to check, and I'll talk to you guys on Monday about more details like this thing. But Sylvie goes to McDonald's, and she's like, what do you have? And they're like, well, we have, or she's like, well, if it's not rabbit and dead things and rats, you know, like, she's been eating terrible food in her life. She has never had, like, a good meal. The only thing that she's done is hunt down He Who Remains in the TVA her entire existence. So now that she's done what she wanted to do, was hunt down and kill him, she's hunted down and killed the guy. Now what do? You know, she's finally gets a moment to be free, and she has no idea what freedom means, and she walks into this McDonald's and turns around and sees a bunch of people happy. He's like, so what can I get you? She goes, I want everything. So I think maybe she's going to try and eat everything at McDonald's and then either die or get a job there because she loved it so much. Or she's going to be like, the guy's going to be like, okay, everything in the store, that's $100 or however much that costs. And she's going to go, oh, I don't have any money. And he goes, well, we're hiring, you know, and that's how she ends up behind the counter. I don't know what it's going to be, but comment below. What do you think? How does Sylvie get behind the counter at McDonald's? But I'm guessing next episode we'll see Loki and Mobius at that McDonald's with Sylvie. So Sylvie's in an elevator, but Sylvie's also at McDonald's, and that looked like the Sylvie that was at the end of last season. So Sylvie in the elevator is what, in the future? Like, I have no idea. Like, it's so confusing, but it's also so interesting and compelling. But the biggest question coming out of this episode is, you know, is Sylvie really happy now that she's ended this? And what did she get at McDonald's? But who pruned Loki? Who's calling on the phone? Skin? Question mark? You know, like, there's so many little details. But Loki at this McDonald's, this old school McDonald's, she finally sees happiness, you know, and people just enjoying themselves, people smiling, and this dude's just like, you want some chicken nuggets? And she's like, I want everything. And I don't think she was even talking about the store, but she goes, I want to try everything. And maybe she will. That's like what this season's about, is Sylvie trying everything that she's always wanted to try when she was running. You know, like, she used to have to live in disaster, so the people in the area were probably all ducking for cover and hiding or just dying, and then she's just bouncing in and out of disasters. So now she's in just Oklahoma at some point. I don't think it's a disaster. I don't think it's anything. I think she's just like, well, I just picked a place, you know, and now she's there. I have no idea, but that's today's episode. Comment below, what did you think of Loki episode 1 of season 2? I'm so excited to have Loki back, a Marvel show to talk about. We just came off Ahsoka, so go check out those videos on Ahsoka if you were a Star Wars fan. That show I thought was great, but what that show really needed was what this first episode of Loki did. Awesome. The exposition, the talking between characters, the catching people up. It wasn't that long. It just quick little conversations, little do-do-do, you know, and they catch you up, catch the audience up, and it makes more sense. And this was as confusing as it could be, but yet I still could follow it, you know. Comment below, are you confused? Were you able to follow it as well as I was? What was your favorite part of this episode? But I can't wait to hear from you guys. Comment below what you think. You can @ me on Twitter or Instagram. My links are in the description below. Hit me up on Letterboxd. Check out my movie reviews over there and see how many movies I've watched this year. You can email me, comicallyboston@gmail.com, if you want to talk more Marvel, more Star Wars, more Comically Boston. The Celtics season's right around the corner, so we're talking sports. You know, like, for my sports people out there, I know nerds and sports don't really mix. I'm trying to bridge the ground a little bit because I love my Boston sports, because I'm a Boston boy, but I also love my nerdy shit too. I like my Legos, you know. So comment below, what are you into right now? What are you watching? Are you guys watching Gen Z? Are you playing video games? Did anyone get Assassin's Creed Mirage? I got that the other day. Spider-Man 2, the video game, is right around the corner, so we're going to be talking about it more. Next episode of Comically Boston coming out Monday. We got some great movie reviews coming out over the weekend, so stay tuned for that, you guys. Thank you guys for watching. Sorry for this video being later than normal. I had to work this week. My boss was on vacation, so shit happens, you know. Things get pushed back a little bit. It is what it is. I'm trying my best, but I hope you guys appreciate it. I appreciate everyone that has made it this far in the video. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.